and welcome to our webinar, Hooked on Social, Lost on E-commerce, and How to Keep Shoppers Engaged, hosted by myself, Charlotte, the head of marketing at StoryStream, and Joshua Wood from Territory Influence.
Hey guys. Um, a little bit about myself. Just say I'm the business development director for the UK. So I'm responsible for consulting lots of brands in the UK on their influencer strategy. So yeah, good to be speaking to you today.
Great. So here's a breakdown of our agenda today. And as flagged at the bottom, this webinar is being recorded, but feel free to put any questions you have in the chat. And yeah, do let us know if there's anything that goes wrong with the presentation you can't see, and just flag it in the chat and we will pick up on that. So yeah, today we'll be talking about the new buying journey and how the path to purchase is no longer linear. People are being influenced by so many different things they're surrounded by, and the key one of those things being social. We're then going to talk about how people are using social for discovery, but then there's a break when they go to buy their products on social, on e-commerce websites, and then showcase what winning brands are doing to create a more seamless shopping journey from discovery to purchase, and give you a couple cases and tips. So the insights in this presentation are a summary of 23,000 consumer responses to a survey conducted globally by ourselves, StoryStream, and Territory. So we've turned the results of this into concrete marketing tips for you. So here's a breakdown of our survey sample. So as mentioned, this went out to 23,095 consumers from our communities, 84% of which were female and 16% male. And this was across 11 markets. So Germany, France, UK, Spain, Italy, Hungary, Poland, Slovakia, Ireland, US, and Czech. And this was across 5 generations. So this was across Gen Z, Millennials, Gen Y, Gen X, and Boomers. So to jump straight in, what we've taken from the results of this survey is that social has completely cracked the attention code and rewired our brains. People are now spending over 2.5 hours per day scrolling, swiping, and watching. They're not just browsing traditional websites. And globally, the average time spent per person per day on TikTok alone is 58 minutes. And then this is closely followed by YouTube at 48 minutes and Facebook and Instagram at 35 minutes each, which is crazy. So as a result, people have gotten used to getting the dopamine hit from engaging content on social, which means that our average human attention span has shrunk to just 8.25 seconds, which is less than a goldfish at 9 seconds, which is terrifying. So social has created this once in a generation shift in how we shop online. It's changed the type of content people want to see. Why? Because on social, the content there mirrors how we naturally connect. It's real, it's emotional, and human. We don't feel like we're just watching content or being sold to. On social, we feel like we're participating in it, particularly when it's video content. And Gen Z, now the dominant force in buying power, they aren't just browsing category filters. Instead, they're discovering through Reels, Stories, and TikToks. So the buying journey is no longer linear, intent-based, or search-led. Consumers are passively discovering products whilst browsing social media or through friends, family, influencers, brands, communities, colleagues, the list goes on. It's no longer a, quickly search the thing that you want and purchase. So social is really starting to replace the high street in terms of shopping for things through shop windows. And websites are becoming the new shop window. 66% of our total respondents are now using social media to discover products. And this rises to 83% for Gen Z alone, which is why brands are investing on social more than any other channel, with spend on social up 22% year on year. So why social commerce and what do we mean? So on social, people are scrolling for ideas, looking for what others are using, and being influenced by content that feels real and relatable. Now, 1 in 3 people have shopped on social media because they felt inspired by the content that they saw. Other motivations included the convenience of shopping on the app, seeing something really relevant through personalized targeted ads, and then seeing social proof with UGC. To us, social commerce is bridging the gap between social experiences people know and love on social and your website, giving customers the kind of shopping journey they actually want. The explosive growth of TikTok Shop really highlights how effective combining immersive, community-led social content is with commerce, and this can have a massive effect on sales. So TikTok Shop grew by 7.5 times in just 2 years, from just 4.4 billion, perhaps not just 4.4 billion, but from 4.4 billion to a staggering 33.4 billion in 2024. And they have a staggering 1.6 billion monthly active users. Now, it's important for us to highlight the growth of TikTok Shop because it really shows how combining the content that people know and love on social with an easy way to shop can have a massive impact on sales. However, 58% would prefer to discover on social, but still go to a brand's website to buy. Yet the reality is the journey between these two is broken, with 49% of people unhappy with their e-commerce experience after social. And that desire for authentic, immersive, and infinite content doesn't just stop at social. People are now craving these same dopamine hit experiences beyond social when they continue shopping on brand websites. So there's starting to be a gap between social and e-commerce, with 80% of people abandoning a purchase after being redirected to an e-commerce site from social, and this rising to a staggering 86% among Gen Z. So discovery is smooth, but the conversion is fractured. There's a clear gap between the inspiration on social and the transaction on e-commerce, and therefore brands are losing customers and revenues in the process. So the results of our survey showed that the reasons why people drop, well, a quarter of all survey respondents abandoned their purchase because the website didn't match the content they loved on social. And 1 in 5 people abandoned because the e-commerce site experience was poor. That's almost 50% abandoning their purchase because the website just didn't match their expectations. And the remainder dropped due to pricing inconsistencies or the product not being available. So what are winning brands doing to capture attention and convert sales? They are optimizing for social. They're prioritizing social media optimization alongside SEO. They're crafting authentic, trustworthy content with UGC at the core and leveraging stackable, engaging formats like short form video, which Josh will come on to shortly. And then they're optimizing for e-commerce. They're seamlessly connecting social content with e-commerce, so bridging that gap that we've seen has that disconnect between the two, and ensuring that content is consistent across both. And then they're embedding trust triggers in e-commerce, such as rating reviews or social proof with UGC. So Josh, on to you.
Yeah, perfect. Thanks, Charlotte. So yeah, we're starting on this journey as a consumer. So how do we get your brand visible on social and how do we make it inspiring? Well, we need to think of a strategy to make our UGC, our social content, optimized so that it performs really well. So if we think about, there are 2 ways a user will kind of discover your content on social. So that's either kind of inactive discovery, that's you just kind of lying around looking for entertainment on social, or by active discovery based on active search. And I think we're all familiar with kind of search engine optimization, right? The idea that you want your product, your brand to feature highly on social, on Google searches. But actually, you also want to be making sure that your content features highly when consumers are searching on social media. And actually, people are increasingly not using Google to do searches. I know, for instance, myself, if I want a recipe, I'm no longer going to Google. I'm now going to TikTok and searching for a recipe in TikTok, searching vegetarian recipes. And why am I doing that? Because the content that comes up is far more inspiring. I'm not bombarded by adverts. I can see the food immediately. The richness of the TikTok experience is meaning that people are actively using it as a search function. And TikTok has building this search function within it. So your consumers will be out there searching within TikTok itself. And that might either be, as I say, looking for like kind of needs, vegetarian recipes, or challenge like blemish coverages, or maybe they're even searching for your brand itself. But people will be actively searching for stuff that would be relevant for your content to sit alongside. This is also alongside sort of inactive discovery, where the algorithm just serves you content which you think you will find entertaining, and then it is served to you. Either way, you need to make sure that your content is being discovered and being served to your ideal consumer. So how do you do that? Well, that means your content needs to be good, unsurprisingly. It needs to be well liked, it needs to be commented, and it needs to be saved. And especially if there's like a tip or a kind of routine in there that people want to remember for the future, if they save it, that is going to massively increase your performance within the algorithm. Also, obviously, needs to be on trends. So if either you or your marketing partners are helping you to identify the trends and make sure that any content that you're putting out there on behalf of your brand is matching those trends, it's much more likely to be featured in people's feeds. And also, whilst hashtags and stuff are becoming less relevant, to be honest, like actually the algorithm is more important, they are still a key way to direct the algorithm towards your target consumer. So if you're a food brand, having recipes in a hashtag would help the algorithm know that likely it will be suitable for that audience. So essentially creating great content, and we'll talk a bit more about what that looks like going forward, but creating really valuable and lots of good content will help that to be served through the algorithm to your target consumer. So what does great content look like? Well, we know that consumers want brands to speak in their tone of voice to feel authentic, but that's being less corporate and being more friendly and everyday. But that's really actually hard to do. It's really easy to sound pretty lame as a brand. If you look on TikTok, Duolingo, Ryanair are very good at it. But for every one of those, there's loads of slightly cringe brands trying to mimic them and trying to do a different tone of voice on social that matches their tone of voice outside of social. And often it just doesn't resonate with the target consumer. It doesn't resonate with Gen Z. Also, if you have wide consumer groups, it's really hard to adjust your tone of voice to Gen Z and then be serving other consumer groups like millennials or going older, boomers, etc. If there's a mismatch, it feels inauthentic. And companies are complex. Adapting your tone of voice to match the latest trends is hard. So a really smart way to get content that is out there communicating your message without complicating, your corporate messaging too much is actually to use user-generated content. Have people trying your product and talking about the messages that you want to land in their voice. So essentially, you're getting your voice out there through the voice of someone else, if that makes sense. And we know this is what consumers want. This is what users of social media really want to see. So 90% of respondents to our survey have said they've seeked out UGC before making a purchase decision. So to really they might have seen a product that they like from a brand, but they go on social or they go on an e-commerce site and read a review to make sure that they can get the proof from a peer, from someone like them, that it also worked effectively for them. And 84% of Gen Z would be more likely to trust and buy from a fashion brand that actively shares user-generated content from real customers. That makes sense, right? When it comes to fashion, when it comes to clothes, a brand can shoot a beautiful shot like in their studio, but can they shoot does the clothes still look good, out on this high street, out on the street in real life? And so UGC is something that users want, that consumers want, and they're actively searching for it for your brands. So when it comes to this user-generated content, we know that it has a real influence over what Gen Z and what consumers are buying. And in the form of it, Well, video is the most powerful. It's more persuasive than static imagery, and I think we can all kind of understand why that is. You know, that the dynamism of a user-generated content in real life really helps to prove that your product is worthwhile purchasing. And also, we know that not only is it what consumers are looking for, but actually it's what the social media companies like TikTok, like Instagram, they are actively promoting. So if you want to get your content visible, having photos are a great tool. Having lots of like photos on Instagram is a great tool to show popularity of a product, but your consumer is more likely to be served a reel or a story, which is dynamic. So we help brands do this. So for instance, one of our clients is Wellaflex, and we helped partner with Weller to really help drive lots of organic UGC, user-generated content on social to really help start that discovery journey. So we got 1,300 nano and micro influencers out there who got to try Wellaflex. They shared to social media about it, and we kind of really educated them on the product benefits and what it would be useful for in their day-to-day lives and the kind of content that they should be sharing, which was kind of styling and beauty regime content, which would help to then be served in people's algorithms. And so if we look at the results of this, we got over 2,000, well, nearly 3,000 social media contents, nearly 16 million online reach and a 99% referral rate. But essentially, this is generating massive UGC on Instagram to really help start the back funnel so that your target consumer is discovering your product and seeing it is relevant to them because they can see people like themselves using it. And they can also see the real life, not studio produced, but the real life product of using Wellaflex on their hair. And these kind of beauty regimes really help to do that. It's really key for the beauty category. And so, as I was saying, video is essential for driving sales. Video is very popular and we know consumers want it. But we also know that it's actually quite hard to do in traditional ways, right? If you think about a traditional production method on any video, very expensive, very difficult to do. And what the algorithm is demanding is a lot of videos and a lot of high production on those videos from a user perspective. So as a brand, we can no longer really produce all those in-house. We have to rely on creators, the voice and others to create this content, which is in the format that our users, our consumers want, and that is short form. You know, with the shorter attention spans, with the search, you know, how quickly you can swipe through content, you need your brand message to be really visible within the first couple of seconds of a video. You need the content to be good. And actually, a huge majority of users of social media now are fast forwarding. So on TikTok, there's a fast forward function, and a significant proportion of people are even fast forwarding. So not only does it have to be visually compelling, but the message needs to land really quickly. And Instagram is just introducing a fast forward option for exactly this reason. So you need to create lots of great content, which is video led, which was produced and delivered onto social, which is hard. But fortunately, you can work with influencers, you can work with creators en masse to do this. And the way to do this is to slightly change maybe traditional ideas of influencer strategy and to work with smaller creators and give them the opportunity to go out there and speak about your brand. So we did this for L'Oréal Paris, where we got 400 nano influencers to try the latest mascara from them. And their objective was to go out and produce these videos and really show product in use before and after, and shows how it makes their eyes look 1.4 times bigger. And it was really key that their whole routine was shown in the content. And so we did this, and the results were we've got 368 social media contents out there, 2 million reach, and also, importantly, 396 reviews on Amazon. And this kind of organic content, which is showing before and after tutorials with loads of really user insights and people talking about L'Oreal's product, but in their own voice, in their own way, really helped to drive that phenomenal online reach there, because the algorithm was picking it up and helping aid that discoverability of the product and educating people on its use so that they would then be driven to e-commerce, apologies. And then when they're on e-commerce, you could see lots of ratings, reviews, and social proof. And we'll revisit ratings and reviews a bit later. So now back to Charlotte.
Great. I really loved what you said then around bringing genuine content forward. I think that's something that we really spotted as an opportunity with Maybelline, who wanted to bring together their powerful online community and brand advocates and really amplified their paid social campaign. So they needed a way to kind of do this. And with StoryStream, they were able to create, acquire, and leverage this high impact UGC in their paid social, which ultimately enhanced their social strategy. So this resulted in a 32% reduction in the cost per click when they leveraged UGC in their ads. And it saw a plus 74% increase in link clicks on their UGC versus on their other content. So it's really a testament to the power of UGC in engaging audience and driving sales. Now, what I mean by UGC is when Josh spoke about nano influencers and just people who are truly passionate about your brand and sharing that engaging content already. So you know what people know and love about social. And so now what brands really need to do is bring the content and experiences people love on social to their website. So optimizing for that socially influenced shopper. Think social first, content rich, and commerce ready to crack that attention code. So what do people actually want to see? So 38% of people in our survey want more personalized experiences. One of the reasons people liked shopping on social was because of targeted ads, surprisingly. So people expect the same personalized experience when they come to your website. And then 42% want more engaging content, such as video. They also want UGC and better alignment from social to web. As mentioned earlier, 25% of our survey respondents abandoned their purchase on e-commerce because the content didn't match what they loved on social. So what can you do? So here's an example of one of StoryStream's clients, Sweaty Betty, whose objective was to integrate UGC to create inclusive, engaging customer journeys, strengthening loyalty, and driving sales. So how did they do that? So they integrated shoppable user-generated content modules, immersive video galleries, and efficient content management into their website. So here you can see the example on the left of their inspiration gallery, we call it, which is a host of all of this great content that's made instantly shoppable with the products showcased. And then you've also got a homepage gallery there at the bottom. Now, what does this have as an impact? So we saw a minus 37% bounce rate on their site, a plus 73% increase in dwell time, and then plus 21% increase in average order value. Now, harnessing community stories is something that we also did with Peacocks. So Peacocks, as some of you might know, is typically a very high street focused brand. They have a lot of loyal customers who go to their physical stores. Now, Peacocks wanted to embrace the digital evolution and really bridge the gap between their in-store loyalists and their online community. So they did that with social content. So what they did is they brought these inspiration galleries from their community who were posting content online through to their website. They streamlined this content management, and then they activated community participation, which is, a very interesting way to bridge that gap. So they used the hashtag #MyPeacocks to instantly get content to those galleries, but then they also had an in-store QR code, which was really cool. It was in the changing rooms, on the mirrors. So when people went in and they loved their outfit, they could upload their photos to this to our platform, and then those photos would be published to their modules. So that's really embracing that community that is in store and bringing that love through to their website.
Fab. Thanks. And so yeah, now we're kind of getting to the kind of final stage of the kind of consumer journey. So you've discovered a product, you've learned more about it on the e-commerce website, then you need that kind of final push to sale. Well, we know that 88% of consumers and people who responded to our survey read ratings and reviews before a purchase, and they're really a critical point to be able to really just push those people to really provide people with the confidence to make that sale because they can see other people have said that their product has performed to the claims that maybe the brand has been making. And so you can having a kind of strategy for having lots of ratings and reviews underneath any product site is really an important way to boost sales on e-commerce. And you can also use stuff like recommendation rate claims. So you can also use stuff if you have any claims from any of your campaigns or anything you're working on. They're also really another valuable way of getting that proof onto an e-commerce site. And so just an example of how we did this for a brand. So we have brought an example from Mixa in France, where we got 1,200 consumers to help launch a product, to help launch their latest cream, which had 3 different variations. And so what we did was we selected 1,200 of them and selected people based on their kind of skin types and what we would know that these creams would perform well against their skin type, gave them the opportunity to try it, and then drove them to leave reviews on e-commerce sites, including Amazon. And the results are great. So we got loads of great reviews on the key e-commerce sites, so really providing that trustworthiness on the sites at close of sale. But also we generated at the same time loads of social media content, so we were really helping to drive that awareness of the product and pushing people from discovery of this new cream that had just been launched into the market and pushing them through into e-commerce, where they could then see additional proof to really help close the purchase. And I think that when you can do the combination of the two, that can really help to drive sales.
Yeah, I completely agree. And Mixer's a great brand. It's great to see them using UGC and ratings and reviews in combination. So we just wanted to cover a few things to remember and a couple takeaways now, before we jump into some questions, if any of you have. So key things to remember for us are that 58% still prefer to discover on social, but then buy on e-commerce. But the journey between the two is broken. So you really have to optimize for that socially influenced traffic. And this is reflected in the data. So 86% of Gen Z have abandoned a purchase on an e-commerce website after going there from social. So they're inspired on social and then uninspired at the moment on e-commerce. So bring those engaging social experiences to your website. And then 75% say video content influences their purchases. So whether that's creating amazing influencer campaigns with Territory, and then housing them on your website, there's ways you can really connect with your shopper beyond social. So key takeaways. Think social first, content rich, and commerce ready to really create a seamless journey from scrolling and discovering to purchasing on your website. Optimizing for attention to then win their action and that sale. Think social media optimization and not just SEO. So sourcing the right and real content, as Josh has gone into there with case studies from L'Oreal and Mixer, it is so important to get that social proof through ratings and reviews, influencer content, and user-generated content. And then create these immersive social style journeys. And then make every moment shoppable. As we've seen with the rise of TikTok Shop, when you have a seamless journey, the results in sales can be massive. But people still want to buy on e-commerce sites. The journey's just broken. So if you can make your e-commerce site a destination and an engaging experience, you're going to get people converting as well.
Cool. Thanks, Charlotte. So just a little bit about us. So yeah, Territory Influence, we're an influencer marketing company with coverage all over Europe, and we serve all kind of influencer tiers from big names down to smaller ones across all sectors. We've done thousands of campaigns for brands across Europe, and so yeah, if you're interested in how we can support you with your creator and influencer strategy, we're here to help. So yeah, please do reach out.
And then a little bit about StoryStream. So we're powering this new era of social first shopping experiences. And why we work well together. So Territory Influence helps brands create that kind of content that people love, working every day with influencers and creators to show products in real life. And then StoryStream takes that content and brings it to life on your website, whether it's video, a story, or a gallery of UGC. We turn it into an experience that looks and feels like social. but keeps shoppers right where they need to be, which is on your website. And we do this for over 100 leading brands and retailers such as L'Oreal, Lululemon, Sweaty Betty, John Lewis, Bowden, and Porsche. So how do we do this? Well, we have a patented AI which curates authentic social content, UGC, short form, and videos into personalized, frictionless shopping journeys that are optimized to convert more social traffic. So thank you very much.
Thanks so much.
Thanks, Josh. Do we have
Thank you, Charlotte.
questions? I can see one that's come in around creators. So how many creators, Josh, I think this is for you, how many creators are needed for a typical social media optimization strategy?
So it really varies. I can tell you about how we work. So we work with, big brands, and sometimes you can, work with, a couple of hundred, and a couple of hundred creators to kind of create that volume, and really spend a lot of time in handling each one and really creating that really great content that's going to perform really well. And you can also, we help brands with getting thousands of pieces of content out onto social. We're really flooding social with social proof. And really, I guess the driver of that is budget, how much product you can afford to send out, maybe, but also the kind of the need. So how much competition there is from other brands that are also playing in your space, and what kind of content do you need? So if, for instance, your product category success really looks like complex product tutorials, really complex storytelling, more long form. I know we didn't talk about long form in this, but say it's consumer electronics or something, you wouldn't probably want to work with as many because the cost of interaction would be too high. And actually you just need a few really strong performing pieces of content to really help serve that category. And we can help guide you find those influencers and control those creators and brief those creators and really handle them with you to create that kind of content. But if it's a simpler product, maybe if it's something more within the beauty category where, like, as in, for instance, the mascaras, where the social proof is easy and actually doesn't require so much handling of creators, then actually volume is a really great way to just make sure that you're flooding social. So essentially you're drowning out the voice of your competitors. So it's, I'm sure there's lots of different brands in the room with us. There's lots of different ways to tackle it, and we can help guide you on basically what's right for your brand, your kind of content that's going to perform well, and how best to deliver it.
We've also had a question come in from Natalie, which I think we should both give our perspective on. It's how do you have much experience with FMCG brands? Natalie said it feels harder to achieve versus fashion and lifestyle brands.
So I can personally say that is the majority of my work is with FMCG brands. So P&G being an example of that. So thinking about home care, baby care, really fast moving brands. That's one of the clients we serve. And the idea with any other, we also serve L'Oreal, for instance, or we serve a lot of food brands. And actually, it's not really about, obviously, beauty seemed like an obvious passion point for consumers, right? That is an obvious one that people want to go online and see people doing fashion things, and it seems more classically influenced and creator based. But on social, there are so many sub communities of people who have different passion points. So whether that's because they're becoming a parent for the first time, so they're going to be interested in parent content, or maybe they're really interested in cooking, or maybe they're really interested in cleaning. There are sub communities which the algorithm learns about and serves content to those people. And so maybe, a beauty or fashion shot on content might get a higher total reach in the end because there might be a bigger proportion of people on social who are interested in it. But there will be, if your product is, say, a cleaning product, there is a cleaning community on there who are interested in that, and it will be served to them if you get the content in the right way. So I would say in our experience, we serve basically all kind of product categories you can think of and all different kinds of clients. even banking and financial services. It's surprising how successful creator collaborations can be at reaching your target audiences if you do it in the right way. And you just need to be able to find the community that you want to reach and provide them content that will speak to them in their language.
Yeah, and similar for us. So we've worked with Nestle. So we've worked with Vital Proteins, who are creating great content for their collagen. So like various different recipes, and also working with Sainsbury's, who, as a supermarket, you can imagine they have a lot of seasonal content. So with our platform, we help them to crowdsource content with the app mentioned Sainsbury's. So around Halloween, Christmas, Easter, people are creating so many different recipes and then sharing them with their favorite supermarket, and therefore atting Sainsbury's. And so they have a wonderful module on their grocery homepage, which has call to actions to either recipe pages or category pages. And I have to say, it's one of my favorite modules. Who doesn't want to scroll loads of cookie photos or cake photos? And also we work with James Wellbeloved, so pet food brand as well. So yeah, it definitely can work for FMCG. Yeah.
And I guess the point of how we can partner together, Charlotte and I, is like if you do think your products may be not so easy to get content, organically people actively sharing it. If that is a struggle for you, then it makes sense to kind of think of a strategy whereby you provide a bit of fuel to the fire by, working with like an agency like ours to get that content produced and getting that social discovery for your product within your target community. And then Charlotte can, kind of take that content from social, and it will also be featuring on the e-commerce store, where you could buy it. So there's real like opportunities there to like power this kind of discovery of products through collaboration.
Great. We got time for one more question. So we've got one here. Do you have a tip of how to find good UGC that is also a great fit for the brand? So I can take this first, Josh.
You go for it. Yep. Go for it.
So from our side, finding good UGC. So as I said, we can crowdsource content through hashtags and app mentions. And even recently now with an integration with TikTok, which is coming. So you can crowdsource that all into our platform. Our platform will recommend the high quality content. And then through the platform, you can automatically request the usage rights and get rights approval. And then it's filtered. We call them streams, hence StoryStream. You can filter that content into streams. So you could have a high quality content stream, or using RAI, you could find content, say you just wanted like someone with a boat or someone on a beach. You could filter the content in that way. So yeah, you can find good quality content by crowdsourcing it, and then using a platform which will give you a bit of a recommendation around which content is good.
And I'm going to be a little bit vague, but there's a reason for it. It kind of depends on where your UGC is and what's the role that it's meant to perform, because different places have different needs. But for instance, if you're using a UGC in like a social ad or a paid ad, so the majority of people will see that paid ad for at most a couple of seconds, probably less, right? So actually, if you want to get performance from that advert, you really want your product to be in shot within the first 1 or 2 seconds, right? Otherwise, you'll be wasting a lot of money in terms of awareness. But if you're using a piece of UGC in a place where people were likely to sit longer and engage with your content longer, maybe on your organic social, or maybe a hub where your kind of people are already interested in your product and going to come and more likely to watch for longer, then it might not be really that useful to have someone go like, in a classic influencer way, shoving the product immediately in your face. Actually, what's more important is you have a compelling story, you have a compelling hook right at the beginning, asking a question or talking about a personal life event and connecting the product to that, so that it doesn't feel like an advert. It feels like this person who you don't know is a friend that is letting you into their life and showing you how this product is helping them. So, without knowing your brand or what challenges you have, it's hard to say. But there's there's different, identify where you want to place a UGC and think about what will perform, or try to research about what will perform best within that space would be my recommendation.
Great. So I think we can end it there.